And yeah, so I mean, even this shader noise is useful. Like we'll be going through some vex or VOP stuff that similar functions like noise functions, sine functions, absolute value, remapping ranges, all of that stuff is super useful working with shaders, Heightfields, everything like that. So I recommend Rohan's Material X lessons as well that he's been putting up recently. And yeah, I was just messing around here with optics and then doing volumes with noise. I mean, even noise, this kind of stuff is similar techniques as well. I don't know why it wasn't updating for me, like in real time. I kept having to unbypass and bypass the lap node to have it to update. I don't know if they're still working out some kinks in the Solaris stuff, but like all my things are set to automatic update. And then I even tried to make this node like time dependent to pick up changes, but for whatever reason, it's not live updating like in the viewport. Let's try just going down to a lower resolution. I think they still have some stuff a little wonky on their end. But yeah, I think eventually we'll get a new build that might be not 3.03. They'll release another production build, and I'm hoping that will be a little bit more stable with some of this stuff. Because yeah, it would be super cool to have some of these things cranking away live. But it seems like right now we need to just always be bypassing and unbypassing that stuff or whatever. Extra nodes, hello. Good, thank you for visiting from Niobe. And yeah, this is, I don't know, I mean, pretty cool to have volumes and stuff like this on optics. I know Blender has some similar stuff. Like I was seeing people with Blender using nodes like this and manipulating volumes live in the stuff. But yeah, we'll get started now with the Heightfields. So yeah, if you're interested in setting something like this up, it's just pretty simple volume. And then just to get it working with XPU, I just did the XPU Pyro preview. And you can do some different settings there to get interesting results as well. You can even get, using these absorptions and stuff like that, you can get fun cosmic color attenuations and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. Add a reminder bot which can ping 12 hours before the stream. I can look into it. I'm not 100% sure on how to do that, but I can try to look into it for sure. Maybe it's just some cron script or daily reminder or something like that that I could do with, like, I don't know. I'll look into it. Main areas inside Houdini. Which subject do you know more? I think originally I was mainly just a VFX artist, and he knows it all. Yeah, so I was originally just focused on kind of simulations and solvers and that kind of stuff. Let's get out of this context. And eventually I branched out more into just procedural modeling, and then eventually branched out into kind of look dev or rendering or just making abstract things for commercials or advertisements or that kind of stuff. I would say the only area I don't know super well is the games stuff. I've done a little bit of that. I worked at Oculus Story Studio for a little bit when they were still around as a company, and was doing some things in Houdini and then making like the FBX Bones system and bringing it into Unreal, or bringing some other stuff that we were making in Houdini procedurally into Unreal. So some of the game stuff I know, but not a ton of it, not all the sprite sprite sheets and vertex. I was doing some vertex texture animations or whatever. But yeah, XPU Pyro shader's way faster. Even looks a lot better. Yeah, it seems to be pretty good results. I think both of them are still working on improving it. The Redshift people were adding nano VDB support, and I don't know if Karma has it yet, but that should make it even faster and more just quick to work with. When you update the volume, it should go to your GPU more quickly. So yeah, we'll get started. I just did the Heightfield, then we can do this Heightfield VOP. And I'm just gonna leave this at the default scale here, but you guys will see maybe these numbers inside of here will get a little bit wonky. Usually the noises that you end up working with, these frequencies are already set for like a very small scale. So to go up to this big scale, you just need to do some. Usually what I'll do is take a multiply constant, plug it into P, and then if you do like 0.01, it's like 1/100th of the default scale. So if we go back up to the object level here, this size, usually in Houdini you start with like a 10 by 10 grid, but this is a 1000 by 1000 grid. So if you do this, you should be like somewhat in the same area. And then I usually do this vector to vector 4. Like that. And then as well with these amplitudes, I think you might need to go higher, because it's like, if you just do heights of 1, it's like very subtle, or you're not really going to notice it, but now it's a little bit easier to see. And then the last thing, I think I usually always talk about this, but you get these like symmetry artifacts, like everything's starting to get shrunken in at the middle or the center there. So if you just offset yourself a little bit, get away from the origin, like that's happening because that coordinate is 0, 0, 0. So if you just get away from that being the center of your noise, you'll get a little bit better. And then if you want to set this up to work with incoming values, usually you might want to add or multiply like against the incoming height coordinates. In this case, it's not doing anything, but if I already had a noise here, we could try something. So if I already had a noise like that, then this would be working with it. So then maybe I go to like a smaller value there, and we're just adding like extra turbulence or layers or whatever on top of it. That's pretty cool. So yeah, I think that this main one is usually pretty nice. They do a good job. This hybrid terrain way of like, you working with fractals is pretty good. One of the things sometimes that I'll do, we could do this in a wrangle or in a Heightfield VOP. Maybe the VOP will be a little bit easier for this. Sometimes I like to do the bias and gain functions. So just disconnect that. So if we do this fit range, we're probably going from like -100 to 100 or something like that. If you do the gain function, and then you're probably going to want to multiply this again by like 100 or something to get back to where it was. Depending on what you want to do, this bias and gain can be pretty good. ways to manipulate some of these values. So you can see here you're able to, it's kind of like squishing the values. So like the incoming values would either be very linear, like slopey, smooth, and then it's kind of like a way of adding contrast to things. It's hard to explain, but it's part of even back in like the TerraGen days and all of that, like this guy Ken Perlin that made the noise, made a lot of noise. He had these bias and gain functions, and you could see them in all kinds of books and stuff like that. These are like the actual curves that I was doing. You kind of see that literally in the terrain. It goes from the regular slope, and then you can do that. Other people talk about it doing procedural Heightfields and terrains and stuff like that. It's a pretty useful way to remap or to work with those values. Vitamina Loop, how's it going? So it works well if you want to like smooth out some areas. Yeah, and then bias is the other one. So if we want to take a look at this one I think is pretty nice for like kind of smoothing out the planes, or like you can kind of keep the peaks high and rough, but you can use this to smooth out the rest of the terrain if you want to. Total random question. Is there a way to reload your desktop? Sometimes I accidentally hit a key, close something. I think what I was usually doing, if you go to the desktops here, just this button, reload current desktop. Depending on what you're doing, like if you're rendering or you have some new panes you've made and things like that, sometimes it glitches stuff up, but like it sends you back to object level, or it could do some stuff like that. But if you've really messed things up, sometimes that's a pretty good solution. So yeah, just the desktops here, reload current. You can even reset some of this stuff if you get a little too carried away with it. But yeah, that's usually what I do. So you can see we have some interesting changes we're able to do with this. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I might work with this initial stuff. I'm going to get to the dark background. And never saw that. Yeah, I think that there's tons of areas of Houdini that there's so much going on with the user interface and everything like that. I mean, the whole radial menu, I don't even know how to bring it up, but this, I think you hold V and like click around and stuff like that, but this is some serious business that I've never even never even gotten into. But I think if you're using like a Wacom pen or something, I mean, there's definitely areas of it that I still don't even know. So usually I'll add like a little bit more octaves and roughness. And you can do some of this post-processing stuff if you want, but they do have the bias and gain built in, which is nice, but usually I prefer to start working with it in a extra VOP, and you can start to do some, you just have more access, and it's, I don't know, if you do too much stuff with just like sliders and clicking around, to me it gets a little confusing to visualize, but here you can kind of see each operation and toggle it on and off and just see what's going on, or debug stuff a little bit easier. Yeah, the Heightfields have a ton of potential, not even just VDB, but even compositing, like doing those image any kind of image correction or those techniques, like texture baking or making patterns or that kind of stuff, you can do some pretty interesting things with it. Ooh, that might have been a... Maybe you want to do this one first. So I'm just trying to get like some canyons going on, like an interesting mountain range. And I think these VOP stuff will help you as well if you're looking to get into more abstract forms and shapes and that kind of stuff, like almost alien landscapes. You can get definitely like more unique. It's easier to make stuff your own instead of just getting kind of stuff that looks like a shelf tool or the default scripts or whatever. All right, so I think my noise here might have been a little bit too crazy. Then I'm just going to try to get to a different area of the noise. Okay, something like that could be good. The dark tower, that big spike that I had earlier. This is like if you have a desert, like Death Valley, or I don't know, something like that, that has the big columns. But yeah, I think my stuff here is getting a little too wild. You could do custom ramps and like exponents and stuff as well, but I usually think that these bias and gain stuff is some of the best. I mean, it was like intended, I guess, to work for terrains, but in general, you can use it for either texture processing, like if you're doing displacement mapping and that kind of stuff. It's pretty nice to just move values in like a different kind of way that the other functions don't do as intuitively. Got our dark towers back. All right, so I'm starting to get close. I think something close to what I like. I feel like it's, in general, you're always looking for kind of like the contrast between like somewhat smooth areas and then patches of like more roughness and stuff like that. And this is starting to give me something interesting. So I think that could be a cool place to start. We'll just keep going with it. I'm going to keep going at a pretty low resolution here, but just know that we can go down to lower grid spacings and we should get more detail, because all these functions and stuff like that are procedural. Yeah, Rebelway has some interesting courses, and then I think the recent SIGGRAPH, there was some nice presentations, or just on the side effects YouTube channel, I think I saw them posting some newer stuff. So I'm going to just duplicate this, go back in here, and you can start to do some pretty interesting stuff as well. So I'm going to do maybe this vector 4, and put it in kind of like this. And again, we probably just want to add this to the incoming noise for height values. And we're just going to make that bigger. And then again, go to a much lower frequency. So we're adding it everywhere. But if I use this fit function, this, I can multiply it in here and mask kind of the incoming area. So it will just be added in areas of higher altitude. And you might want to increase this source max, and then you can dial some more interesting, just more precisely work on specific areas or something like that. Another thing you can do that's interesting if you're making like abstract stuff, you can use the incoming height value and put it into that component. It's kind of a sneaky move. That will give you basically noise that's already like based off of the incoming altitude. So some of these terraces, or you can almost get kind of like there's been some erosion or like sediments or something like that. Because we're putting that in that fourth value, you can adjust the frequency up there if you want. But you can start to get some more interesting formations and stuff that way as well. Mosaic. Yeah, it's always, I don't know, it's like some looking through wavy glass or something like that almost. I'm going to try this at a lower frequency. So you can see up here again, just adding some extra little detail or interest, uniqueness or whatever in certain areas. It's pretty cool. So yeah, that's starting to get a little bit more interesting. I might go back here, and I'm just gonna play around with these values a little bit more. Just gonna try to get more smoother areas, but completely flat. I might do the power function. So that gives you just a smooth roll off, like a sharper incline everywhere. So I think these values were good. Let's go something like that. Swirly Heightfield with length. Yeah, the length of P can give you interesting results. Damage Jack, thanks for popping in. You could, oh, hopefully it's not interrupting too many of your plans. So yeah, you can do, we could get into some other basic techniques, but I'm going to keep pushing forward with this for now. But yeah, if you do things just based off of length of P, you can get kind of radial rings going out from the origin. You can do spirals, you can do all kinds of interesting stuff as well. Ooh. That could have been a good move, I don't know. Sometimes I just pop values in and get unexpected results. Connect nodes in different ways, and you can get more interesting things sometimes. So I think the system we have is working pretty good. I don't know if I might just be doing a little too much in this VOP. I kind of want just a little bit better of a base shape with like these areas, the flatter areas, I want to see them connecting more so that we kind of, maybe it's like a river or like water or something like that was running through it. So just try to get more of those flat areas that are connecting and stuff like that. Could be good. I think this could work nicely. I might actually expand some of this area. So just have something horizontal like that. There's another nice thing about these height fields is that it's almost like a window into your area. You can't adjust the height. But if you wanted to slide it over to other regions, you might uncover some asymptotes or some dark towers or stuff like that. But yeah, it's always nice that you can kind of scan things around and find different areas and regions of stuff going on. But I think this should be pretty good. Could reduce the grid spacing. You can start to see we're getting some nice natural fall off, even without doing any erosion or any of that more expensive kind of post-processing stuff, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I'm gonna save this where we are and can send that to you guys. If you guys want to take a look, you can grab this scene, and then I'm just going to keep moving forward with where we are. You can start to think about camera layouts and stuff like that. Sometimes if you're in the mode of just dropping down cameras, sometimes it's nice just to slap down a few so you're not switching kind of in and out of different creative processes of like working compositionally and then more technically and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm just going to put down a few different views, just almost like bookmarks or ways to remember like where you were. So just interesting areas. Maybe a little too, could be nice with this thing in the foreground. And maybe a last one that's more aerial. This is interesting here with like a little bridge or something. Okay. So we'll just start with these 5 cameras, and we have the Heightfield. And then I'm just going to add in another piece of geometry that maybe we can use for like water or something like that. So I was keeping everything here at kind of 0, like when I was working with the fit range inside of here. So it's taking this source range and remapping it to 0, 1, and then I'm boosting the elevation by 2000. So I'm basically assuming that water level is at 0 right now, and like sometimes that's a helpful way to work. Like if you're just, I don't know, generally in real world or mapping terms, they'll say like elevation is distance above water or whatever. And what did I do up here? 15 for X, 15. So it's pretty low res grid for right now. And I just did it a slight lift or bias to get like a little bit above what the Heightfield values were. But I'm going to use this geometry and maybe we want to subdivide it. I'm basically going to use this geometry here to kind of represent the water. So we'll start with a color. Does subbing on Twitch gain access to Patreon videos? Yes, but it's a little bit more complicated. But yeah, if you subscribe and link your Twitch account and join the Discord and link your Twitch account to your Discord, you'll get a purple name like Damage Jack has. And this has all of the Patreon posts and scene files and access as well. So it's all content at whatever platform you're a paid or Prime subscriber on, you're able to get it. Antonio Pepe, thank you for the tier 1, 9 months. Legal. This is a gold mine. Purple because I'm a prince. Yeah. I mean, it's not super organized. A while back, I was doing, actually was doing like these websites for the Prime subscribers. It was too much work for me to keep making these HTML sites and everything like that, but it's not super organized. But yeah, I mean, you still have access to everything. You just have to do a bit of sifting through these posts and everything like that. But yeah, you have access to everything there. And future upcoming content. One of the things I was actually working on, it's in this somewhat similar vein of Heightfield stuff, but this might be the next Patreon thing. But it's kind of like, I was working on other things with these color slices and that type of technique. Some of it might be more 3D, but this is kind of like similar Heightfield things that you get interesting patterns and stuff like that with. So yeah, that's what I'm planning to share next to the subscribers and all that stuff. It's pretty cool technique to do this stuff. So yeah, hopefully that will be there soon. Bonus feed chat, that's just the kind of subscriber bonus feed, bonus section. So if you're subscribed on Twitch, you link your Twitch account to Discord, and then you'll automatically get added to this bonus feed, secret channel subscriber. This is like the OnlyFans, the after hours section. So you'll get access to that. You can also use Patreon, whatever you prefer or whatever you like to manage the subscriptions through. All right, so we have geometry. We have the Heightfield, and I think we can even, there's different stuff we can do, but I'm just going to use this attribute attribute from volume. So these Heightfields, they're technically still volumes, even though it looks like geometry in the viewport. This is just if we were to change the visualization of it, it doesn't actually change in height. So this is like the visualizing the height as luminance or brightness or whatever here. Maybe just because it's so slim, it doesn't work that well. But I think another thing you could do is if you just do the volume slice. And we could switch our maximum. So it's basically just a 2D grid that has the height values in it. So if we do this attribute from volume, we can do it like that. Just get rid of these. And this is going to copy the elevation into this geometry. And by default, it will just do it in color. I think this is okay. And sometimes I do this. I go by Zach. Good to see you. Hope you're having a good Tuesday, start of the week. You can do a swap from C, D, and P. Basically, this will just put all of the points in a line like this. The reason people do this is because then you can use the clip SOP, and then you're kind of cutting based off of elevation. And then you can just do another swap, and got ourselves a little swap meet down here. You can just take the CD, the color, and move it back into the position. So instead of swap, I usually do move. And then I think with the clip, you can switch how that's happening. I might need to switch my axis here. Playtester, how's it going? So this should work now where we're clipping at the elevation. I think in this case, I'm just gonna get like something close to 0. And if we look at these two chains or streams together here, well, a B8, thank you for the subscription. So yeah, let me know if you don't see that bonus channel show up right away. Sometimes I have to resync. The Discord rolls, but it's quick for me to do, and it will, any new linkage, it will pick up. So yeah, you can see now I've just isolated these patches. And that clip, instead of doing a blast node, you can see it actually preserves some of the edges. So if you were to delete by the point attribute or something like that, you wouldn't get as clean of a cut. And then you can always add more subdivisions as well if you want to enhance that cut geometry or whatever. And then I'm going to do this group by range, just group, just a group. And we can set this to points instead of just grouping everything. Default, it just grabs everything. We can go down to edges and unshared, and then we just get the border points. It's pretty nice. So we'll call that borders, and then we can do this distance along geometry. And the start points to measure the distance will just be the borders. And what's going on here? I think this is just a visualizer, so it's not actually baking the colors in, but we can just do the color right here and ramp this based off of the distance attribute. And then I think it's just too close to the ground, so we're kind of getting some Z fighting. If you lift it up a little bit, it should work a little bit better. But yeah, this should help us quite a bit if we want to start to kind of add, like, these are ponds or rivers or something like this. You kind of have a natural fall off, or you can use this for a lot of more interesting things. And you can start to look through some of these cameras. So I think I still want to lower the water level. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to try some different values here. This is kind of what I was talking about, where I wanted to see more of this stuff connecting. So I think this should be good. Have some actual like rivers or streams, or just, again, just more variation in terrain levels and detail levels and flatness and everything like that. That should be cool. Let's see. This isn't too much memory or too much detail, but if we want to start increasing it, enhance, 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 then we can do some of those longer cook times. And as well, like I was saying, for where we're going to be trimming the grid, we can add more resolution, and we'll start to get a better level of detail. It's possible if we clip a little higher up, we can expand some of the selection, and as well, we might get some smoother areas. Cheese shake. How's it going? Good afternoon. So that's pretty cool. There's some other things you can do if you don't want this stuff to be as jagged. I don't know how well it will work in this case, but we could just try to blur and unpin the border points. So depending on what you're looking for, sometimes that can be useful. It's kind of like an evaporation. If we let these pools dry up or something like that, it's kind of shrinking. You can definitely get better holes that are poking through if you do a bit more of this. Like it will give you, it's almost like you're ripping or tearing like a cloth or something like that. You can get some interesting shapes doing that. And then we have the distance here that we were coloring like that based off of the distance. I'm going to try to do some maybe more like a noise texture or flowing noise or something like that, that's going like through somehow through this terrain or around it or something like that. So let's try another distance. Let's try grouping things a little bit differently. And I'm just going to call this start. Instead of edges, we could start from a bounding box. Let's go up. And we can just set this over here at the corner. Doesn't really matter how close you are, but I just want to get the general area of the corner. And then this one, if we set it here to the start group, it's missing those areas, but that should be fine. And I don't know how to edit. I'm never good at editing these visualizers. Somewhere all the way down here. Dist, pencil, yes, I got it. Okay, so if we expand the maximum, you can see we actually have values that are going through the whole thing. So this is maybe almost like it's the time it's going to take water to travel from here to here, if that makes sense. It's kind of like a gradient, just left to right, but like as we run it through, it's almost like the arrival time that it would take if you start pouring water at one side of the map or area and let it trickle or roll to the other side of the map or whatever. So this distance, maybe we'll just call this time. You can do whatever you want. And then I'm just going to use the attribute copy, and we can put it over here like that. So we have time values as well now. So we're originally just visualizing this distance to the coastline, and then we have time that's going like across the map. So let's look at noise, and so we could just start with the point position. The other arguments for this, I think you want like the roughness or the octaves, then the roughness, and then like the attenuation. And I think in this case we want it to be a float like that. And again, we want to go to a lower frequency. So this is just a standard, kind of like the anti-alias noise. This is like the original Perlin noise or whatever, and then I think you have like X. You need different arguments for those ones, but you have S noise for simplex noise, I think. Just P noise. So O noise is like original Perlin noise or whatever. It's nice. And it as well has a fourth component to everything. So if we add to the point position here, the noise coordinate, 0, 0, 0, but time, like that, you'll see we should have things evolving over time. Maybe I need this to be first. Let's just do this. It's not happy with me. Maybe it doesn't like that I'm doing everything just in one section like this. So let's just make a new, I think this might be a little bit more organized as well. So we'll make a new vector4 variable that it's going to be position. We want to keep it multiplied by like 1/100th, and take that from there, and we can offset the position like that. It's possible it's just this O noise that doesn't want to use 4 values. I thought it did. Am I losing my mind? There's one of these I was certain you could do a vector for. They changed these did they switch the settings on me? So I know the X noise you can, but it doesn't give you like the octaves and all that extra stuff. I don't know, I could have sworn that you could do that. Maybe it's just going to be easier to do this in the VOP. Wanted to do more vex in here, but I don't know, maybe it's better just to stick with VOPs anyways. So basically what I was trying to do was switch my noise inputs to get the vector 4 in there. We can just do the same thing here. So we have 1/100th of the position scale and like that, and then we do the time. That's basically what I was expecting to see. So instead of time evolving like this, we can actually pick up that attribute that we calculated like that, and then you see it's a little bit too fast or too high of a value, but this starts, you can see this noise pattern is now like flowing. It's not super realistic because you don't see bouncing off of the stuff or like these bottlenecks. Typically it would kind of slow down and spread out from, like you'd actually have to do a simulation and stuff like that. But it's for procedural terrains or whatever, it's a good technique, gets you some of the way there. Geronimo. Yes, I'm back. I'm slowly uploading some of the VODs as well. So we'll get the distance and we can put that in as well. Like that. Slaying with the streams. Thank you. So I'm trying to remap these values here so that they're just higher at the start and then they slow down away from like the coast. So this is kind of pretending like this stuff has to squeeze through some of the coast areas or whatever. Maybe we want to push it. Something like that seems okay. You can see you get some interesting capabilities with all this stuff, for sure. So let's continue to manipulate this. I'm going to try something else. Take that dist and add it over here, like that. And I'm going to try multiplying this one down as well. Maybe kind of interesting. I don't know. Looks like a 2D volume. Yeah, I mean, all this stuff is similar techniques as the Heightfield. You could even convert this into a Heightfield if you want. I had to switch to polygonal geometry because I wanted to do these distance measurements and stuff like that. And to my knowledge, they don't have those capabilities. They do have this volume arrival time that kind of sounds like maybe what we would want, but it's for like lighting clouds and like computing how the light travels through the cloud, which is like a similar idea, but I don't think it's going to work for this here. Geronimo, thank you for the tier 1. Obrigado para treat. Tier 1. Okay, so I might want to do a similar exponential thing here. I don't know, something like that is starting to have interesting detail. But yeah, all this stuff is super fun. I mean, I'm kind of getting lost myself, but you can definitely play around with this stuff for hours and do other cool things. Another one that's interesting is if you take this dist and change the mapping of it, or like the remapping, and use it to drive the roughness. In this case, you can get like the rougher noise closer, just closer to the edge, and like have it smoothen out away from the edge. So that's almost adding more realistic interest or details or whatever, like it's hitting rocks or like just getting sloshed around or something like that, and then it smooths out more. And then, yeah, of course, all of this stuff you can offset or do things with. So if we subtract the actual time, then we have this stuff kind of doing some movements or traveling, somewhat fake, but could be interesting for what we'll be doing. And I'm just going to play around with these frequencies on the thing itself and find something interesting. We might want to actually put these things together. Oof. What happened there? Okay. And if you're working with color like this, you can always remap it remap itself like this. And get some interesting schemes and stuff like that. So maybe we have some molten fluids or something like that. I think we might want to manipulate this last value. So if I just add the incoming distance to it, I might have to remap this value, but this way I can kind of add back I'm hoping to try to get it. I want it to get whiter near the coastline a little bit. Oof. I feel like this is a real subtle Dankin Soul, thanks for coming in. Yeah, I feel like that's a little bit more subtle of a value that I want it to be. So I'm going to use the power function again. Do something like that. And then maybe make it a negative number. Maybe we don't want it right, I don't know, just right now when we're visualizing it, maybe we don't want it exactly white. Maybe some kind of brown or something like that. This is just visualization. We can mess around with that stuff later if we want. Let's just take another. Play around with that stuff. All right, we have our fake magma. Let's just drop it down a little bit. kind of keep forgetting these distances or the values I'm working with here at a larger scale. But this should be good. All right, I think for right now that's good. And if you guys want another, ooh, click the wrong button. If you guys want another update, get caught up locally, you can grab that new scene file. So yeah, a lot of these visualization values, I might not keep using them for the actual, to see what the actual render looks like, or how we end up doing that. Let's just see like what kind of geometry we have here. So if we convert the height field to polygons, probably want to switch this to polygon soup just to have it more optimized or lighter weight. I don't think it should be taking this long. What do we need here? Okay, this isn't too deep into it. I don't know why that it was saying like baking texture coordinates or whatever. Let's just try to full screen this. Okay. So polygon soup should make it a lot faster. And I think as well, if you just switch to the convert SOP, should be faster. I'm not too worried about those texture coordinates. Should see this just like 4 or 5 seconds maybe. So it is a lot of polygons and vertices and stuff like that that's part of it, but I still wouldn't think it. Other one seems a lot slower. It's doing something inside of that asset. But this should be probably good enough for what we need. Let's just see what we have over here. I think we can add some more detail here. It's not a ton of geometry. Yeah, the VOD should be up. I've been slow on the VOD deliveries, but I will post it in the stream archive channel here. So I just did one recently. It was from a couple weeks ago, but yeah, I've been adding them with some summary synopsis, just trying to condense the highlights or the useful information down, so if people need to refer to it later, it's just a little bit. I started adding chapters and things like that should make it easier to navigate. I think when I was hammering out a bunch of VODs a couple years ago, or a year ago or something like that, it was like difficult to sift through, like just unannotated hours and hours of messing around. Okay, so we have a little bit more geometry, but I think we can even go one more depth. So you see, just as I'm increasing that, our textures and all of that stuff is kind of increasing, like resolving at higher detail, because we have these noise functions. So basically you have unlimited detail. It just depends on the mesh resolution that you're sending it. If you're getting fancier, you could do some of these calculations at render time, like the remapping of time and distance through a noise function. If it would take more time to set up, so I'm not doing it now. But that's basically how you start to push some of this stuff even further. So yeah, you can see that this stuff is enhancing slightly better. Yeah, I don't know, I'm not super big fan of it. I think I pushed it's a little too slow. Maybe just when we do the actual render, we can increase that, but it's too slow to work with like interactively right now. Usually I wait till I'm like pretty satisfied with the stuff until I actually switch the buttons to the final detail. So I was thinking this, we either want it to be fully red or just very kind of monochromatic or whatever. And then this one. Something like that. And yeah, I think see if we can get a render. This boy here might be a little expensive to render, but I think we should be good. Yeah, I think I might just do this in redshift. I'm a little pushed for time. Right now I got lost in some noise functions and stuff like that earlier. So yeah, I'm just going to leave this right now as geometry and just go really quickly through with redshift. So we have all that stuff where we want it. And I'm just going to start right here, maybe with the area light. So this is almost treating it like a directional light. Maybe we want this stuff to be a landscape or something like that. So having it pretty far away and like a pretty small size of the light should be something like a sun or another planet is casting that light. Favorite 3D artists? Yeah, there's a few that are definitely inspirational. I don't know, I mean, the first one that comes to mind is like Simon Homendahl, and then the XK studio people. These things, they did a talk at SIGGRAPH, I think, but just all of their breakdowns and like all this stuff is amazing. Super detailed, super interesting materials and textures and simulations and all that stuff. It's amazing. Okay. So just make our materials. Might also make this dome light. I don't know how much I'll put it in, but it can be nice to have something like this as like a fill. And I'm usually pulling stuff from the Material X library that comes with Houdini. XK Studios. Yeah, their talks are pretty nice as well. Yeah, I think they've done a few of them over the past few years. But yeah, they're super talented Houdini artists. So I might want to switch these things out into two different objects or materials, but for right now, I'm just going to assign this to everything. And I think we should be ready to go. Hour and a half in, just starting the first render. a little slow today. I got too bogged down in the VOPs. Lost in the sauce. Okay. My camera might be stuttering a little bit. I think I have too many GPUs turned on. I'm gonna see if I can turn one off. Let's do that. So it might kick in. Workflow for Houdini to Unreal, it just depends what type of information and what things you're doing or exchanging. Like these height fields, I think you could bake them to textures or do some stuff like that. But yeah, it depends a lot on like destruction simulations. You have to kind of do a whole different setup. Sometimes people do the FBX. They'll actually rig like bones to bake out an RBD, to parent the RBD pieces to the bones. But it depends a lot, I think, on just those types of constraints and everything like that. I haven't looked too much into Unreal for like too advanced of effects. When I was using it, I was just really doing very basic like shader animation, like giving it simple geometry and then doing things in the Unreal shaders to do like similar stuff here, like noises that were based on attributes and stuff like that. So if we want to enhance some of this stuff a little bit, I'm just working quickly, but basically we have this max on noise. And we could maybe use this for like a bump, just to add some more detail. Ouch now, ouch out. How's it going? So yeah, I'm just trying to get a little extra detail. I don't know how much I actually want to kind of display stuff. But we can do something like that. These scales and stuff like that, of course, will need to be a lot lower frequency. So we go down to the smaller level of detail or whatever. This might even need to be lower. It might be that my values there are a little bit too high. If you want to check minifans in China, thank you. Yeah, I saw someone was saying they were watching the VODs on YouTube but doing like the auto translate feature. So this, somehow it's still way too high of a frequency, it looks like. Maybe I need to reboot this. I don't know, I would expect, it's possible that, I think the scale in redshift is going the other way. Like it should be bigger numbers that I'm using here. It's always confusing. Everyone's using different terminology for these, like swirl size, element size, scale, frequency. But yeah, it's either one or the other. Okay. So it should be okay. I don't know how much I'm expecting to get out of it, but you can see we're just added like this kind of bump layer of detail to everything. Just doing a bump like this, you can only get away with kind of so much, but it definitely helps a little bit just to have that kind of stuff going on. We'll like break up the specular a little bit more. I don't know, it's not super fancy, but it definitely helps. Yeah, if you do this command, you get an invite to the Discord. There's a cooldown period on it, but like anyone can grab that invite or follow the link to it. I might want to switch the scale here in Y. So you can see this way we get a kind of striations or something like that. That's it lends itself better to a terrain, like making it feel more natural a little bit. Just kind of a hack. Billy? I'll look into it. I haven't heard of that service ever, but I'll give it an exploration. How well does this work with surface level terrain? I'm not sure what you mean by surface level. Oh, camera on the ground? It can be okay. You definitely need to start doing other things for that, but I think you can do some level of detail stuff. But I would say it's pretty good just for backgrounds or like matte paintings or set extensions or that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know if it would ever be close enough to give you like the level of detail you need without, you need to start instancing rocks or like trees or more high res geometry and do some stuff. But yeah, you can do maybe like triplanar projections and get more detail as well. I'm not doing the best job with these things. But yeah, it will definitely start to break down at a certain distance or level of detail for sure. So I have the HDRI that I'm just using like a fill. So you can use it with just turn it down pretty low and use it with the directional light to start to get something interesting. All right, so it's just some basic things to make those mountains stand out a little bit or whatever. I'm gonna go back into the light like that. And now that we have the camera and some shaders, we can get like a little bit more dramatic light, something more interesting. Danny Larson, thank you for stopping in. Yeah, I don't know what time works best for everyone, but hopefully my various scheduling times have some spattered throughout for me earlier or later in the day, but hopefully, depending on your time zone, some of them will line up. Ooh, that one's pretty wacky. So I think putting the light lower like this, it's almost like magic hour or sunset. Like you're able to get just more dramatic lighting and things going on. And then this dome light, it's almost like it's light bouncing off of a moon or something else that's just adding some extra fill or something like that. Just meetings, it's unfortunate luck. So yeah, I don't know if something coming more at the camera is interesting. This is kind of nice. That's like hitting some of that stuff. Sometimes zooming out, it's kind of weird to think about it that way, but sometimes it actually helps if you're just trying to nail in like the broad composition, like a postage stamp size. I don't know, it's kind of a weird way to work, but sometimes I'm doing things like that. Getting bogged down again here. Let's just start with something like that. And we can look at it here from some of our other cameras. Sometimes it works out nice. But I think we're good with that one so far. Ryan of Hearts. Thanks for stopping in. Yeah. So I'm going to turn off that, what do we call it? Water area. We could try something here with the let's just do a quick Heightfield resample. And try to put this at like a lower resolution. I'm just trying to still work a little bit more quickly. And that, I feel like that was slowing things down a little bit. And then I'm just going to put down a null node over here, so this will be, we'll just call it water. And then we can get another node here to get another object. So this should be useful because then we can use another shader to shade that separately. Similar vibes. I don't think I've seen this, but yeah, this is really interesting. We have a noir, a noir artist over here. Yeah, I mean, working more minimally like that, you can definitely just add more like dramatic compositions for sure. Like everything feels more impactful and everything like that. Yeah, these are amazing. I feel like making cool breakdowns is 90%. Like if you can make really cool breakdowns, that definitely helps your project page things. Amazing. Okay, so for this water area, we can just get rid of that for right now. We can pull in the point attribute. We could maybe even do, yeah, let's just pull in the color and put it in like that. Sometimes you need to reload redshift after connecting these so that it will pick it up. And I might actually want to do something different with this. So let's just do this vector to scalars. And we have this red channel, green, blue. So maybe the green, we can do maybe the change range. And I'm going to have this maybe change the reflection capabilities. We could unplug it there. So we get more interesting specular roughness or response or whatever. We could play around with these values as well and get some interesting detail. I don't know if we want to go all the way down to 0. 0 would be like a mirror or completely sharp reflection. So it might just be a little bit too extreme. But yeah, that could be interesting. I don't know as well about going all the way up to roughness of 1. That part seems a little bit funky. Let's do that. Maybe we want to try something. We'll take a sine function of this blue coordinate and maybe use that for the anisotropic angle. So that should kind of give you different angles that it would be hitting the light. I feel like sometimes it works better the other way around. So if you drive the anisotropic amount with it, and then you can try a different rotation. It's just, I don't know, kind of like imagined detail, just doing weird things like that. So I don't know, maybe popping back into the light or the cameras and playing around. I don't know, maybe I could just push this shader a little bit more. Okay, that was a reflection. Let's knock the diffuse back a little bit, maybe. Let me try putting the color back in. Ooh. Kind of spooky. So maybe this transmission is kind of letting the stuff see beneath it. I think maybe you can do a little bit, use that to kind of cheat some extra detail in as well. Kind of like picking up some of the rocks or stuff under the surface or something like that. Just doing nonsense to get more detail. You're always trying to find more detail. I think this frame right here is feeling the most interesting to me. So I might hop back in the light and just try to light specifically to this frame for right now. I don't know if that direction is really working. This one here's maybe a little bit better. Okay. So that's somewhat interesting. Let's go up another version. And I'm just going to do maybe some quick final little edits in the SOP networks here. And just name these to be a little bit more clear. So I think if we do just some base displacements to the SOP geometry, that's going to be the quickest way to kind of punch a little bit more detail in. Like these cone shapes right here are not the best. I don't know, it just kind of looks like everything's low res if you see too much, and there isn't really a way to get around it with the height fields because it's just either going up or down. But that was another reason why I was converting down here. So if you just put in the mountain node, this is set up to basically push geometry along its normal, the normal vector. Again, we're going to have to change the scales of everything. And I think let's just set that to positive. I usually like this alligator noise a little bit better. So because it does go like along the normal, you get the inversion and stuff like that of the geometry like poking itself through. But let's see what we can do. These little bubbles could be kind of interesting. little stuff. It makes it kind of even more alien. All right, let's make this stuff like that. Let's just see what happens if we leave that. It's like a whole different planet or something. Okay, I think that's going to be a little bit too wonky. So we can actually use this expression maybe? I don't know if we can use it to modify the amplitude. Maybe not, unfortunately. So I might just switch again into the VOP. This might be the last technical kind of thing I put in here. But yeah, I'm just going to grab that alligator noise, and what I wanted to do was we can still do the displace along normal, but what I wanted to do was mask it by the height, and that wasn't letting me do that with the SOP level node. So in here, if we do the vector to float, we can get the Y component, and we can do this fit range, and then multiply the displacement amount by the height value. And we could increase the scale. Maybe we want this to be a little bit higher resolution. And this, it won't be super noticeable, but if we start to add more divisions to this stuff, it should start to maybe help with some of those spikes. Let me see what I was fitting this range to. I might actually do some last adjustments here. All right, I'm going to turn off the other objects so it just keeps updating this water layer because I put it in another object. Raiders, thank you for 58 Planet's Own Max. Thank you for the 58. Big drop. How's it going? I'm doing some Houdini technical stuff. Appreciate the new viewers. So yeah, I'm just playing with the Houdini Heightfields here, trying to make some kind of abstract terrains. But yeah, I do super technical stuff. Sometimes it's too much. But yeah, so this is all just like value remapping things. And I'm just trying to get some different looks of the elevation. I have everything set up now with just some mountains and some water, but I was just playing around to see what kind of things I could do to exaggerate maybe the mountains a little bit more. I don't know how many of you people in here are Houdini users, but oh, thank you. Yeah, the flat UI is pretty nice. So yeah, I'm just trying to get some more detail out of this stuff. The height field I have here is already pretty high resolution, but you kind of run into the issue of like too many spikes because it is just a height value. Like you never get, I don't know, as much horizontal left and right kind of information as you would like. So I was building, the last thing I was adding was like trying to do this mountain sop stuff. And so I think one thing we can do that will actually be pretty cool, if we take a dot product of the normal, this should basically tell us whether the surface is pointing like up, whether it's flat or sideways like that. So we can grab that value and let's just remap it like this. See if it works. Might have done something wrong. Okay, so I just needed this. All right. So this is just going to accentuate it. Displacement at render time. Yeah, you might be able to do it. I'm a little bit hesitant or nervous about it just because redshift tessellation and like in general, I think if I was doing Octane, I would try that more, but I don't know. I've always had, I'm hesitant to do too much displacement with redshift because maybe I just don't know the settings well enough, but it just always seems pretty slow, like to do that pre-render stage. Definitely for bigger, longer term project, like spending more time on it, baking maps and doing more stuff in render time would make more sense. But I think because I'm being like somewhat lazy or somewhat hasty in my setup right here, just like I just want to see the changes instantly as soon as I make them. So I'm kind of doing some weird things, I think, that because of that. So we can multiply this in here. Let's see what happens. Maybe we want this set higher. That was giving us like the kind of ridges or striations or whatever. But yeah, you can always add more detail as well, I think, with the render time displacement. We could try putting some in, but definitely a little nervous about it. But yeah, I would think, I'm going to turn this off. Hopefully it doesn't explode. I would think doing a triplanar projection of some rocks and that kind of material, like usually for terrains, that will get you pretty far with low effort. I was also a little hesitant about using too many like textures or external resources or stuff like that. Just because it makes like distributing these scene files a little more difficult. So I was disabling that downsampling that I was doing. It seems like maybe I'm just getting a little too wild with this stuff. I think overall it's just a little bit too high of a frequency. So if you turn down that roughness, you can maybe get, I don't know, less of those areas inverting, but it doesn't always seem to be the case. This might be a kind of scuffed method that I'm doing here. Yeah, I think that was a mistake. Let's go. With that. I don't know. I think in general, you'd probably still be getting some displacement artifacts like that if you tried to do too much render time. The other option would be like trying something with a volume, but I don't know about that. I think for right now we could be okay. I can try putting the displacement in and see what's going on. I don't know. Sometimes I would maybe try like a poly reduce or something like that. But we can see it's pretty quick to try things out like this. So we'll just go over to the tessellation, displacement. Maybe start out with a maximum of 3. And go to our shader here. And then I think instead of bump, we should be able to just work with like similar values here. And leave that how it is. So yeah, just having this sit for a while is what I was hoping to avoid, but we'll see. Are you usually using Octane, Zach? I think even I did some tests with Karma. Just in general, I think redshift has always seemed a little unoptimized. I don't know. Let's see what we get. Yeah, I think part of the problem is I'm just throwing such a big mesh at it. Maybe doing like a poly reduce thing could help. And then the other option would be doing this whole height field as a displacement map. But in general, anytime I've tried to displace stuff, it gets a little bit, like, you definitely get more self-shadowing and more realistic details and stuff like that, but yeah, just one subdivide. I think as well now I've pushed that ground up too far. Like it's getting displaced through the mesh. So I'm going to boost this up quite a bit maybe. Might need to do even more. I don't know if I have the, I guess I have it. maybe this is going to be the... I think in general it's just slow to the mesh I'm giving it is pretty wild. All right. Just gonna see if that... This is a little bit more sloppy, but I think it can give you I think I do need to actually convert from polysoup for that to work. That might be. I don't know. I could have just been throwing too much stuff at it. I know in general, like a remesh, the remeshing node in Houdini is a lot slower than polyreduce. If you're just trying to optimize stuff for performance, I'd say. So yeah, even this one is a little bit slow, but I don't know. I mean, I'm just more familiar. I'll definitely have to play around with that fast remesh. I saw they even released a video on it. But yeah, I think just in general, the input poly count is so high that it's going to slow me down no matter what. So I think in general, the Houdini remesher, like the standard one, and I don't know if this one's using it inside of it, but they're trying to do a little bit more things, whether it's extra iterations or like maintain a consistent edge length. But if you're just looking to kind of optimize for performance, this polyreduce seems to be a little bit quicker, just give you a little bit better job for some of that stuff, but I don't know. So we got it down a little bit, and then we can do the soup down here. That should help us even a little bit more. Now it's not as wild. And then yeah, we could try maybe just going down to 2. But yeah, it's definitely, I don't know, I usually try to keep everything super quick in terms of interactivity, like even so I could move cameras around or lights around and stuff like that. It doesn't get too slow to work with. Maybe I need to increase it. I don't know if I need that. Setting up higher? I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if it's unit or space those values are in. But yeah, we can try playing just with the camera a little bit more, but I'll probably be wrapping up with this one pretty soon. So if you have any questions or tips, feel free to put them in. Okay, I see what you're saying there. Yeah, I've tried that. Sometimes it definitely can help. Maybe this sometimes turning that off, I don't know. But I feel like if you turn that off, it will just strip too much detail away almost. But I think we can start to play around with some of this stuff here and see what happens. Let's get back into the light. Just go for even crazier shadows and lighting scheme. And maybe get the, this is kind of our moonlight we have here. So that stuff might be a little too crazy. My tricks are breaking down when you look at them too closely. Alright, maybe something like that is a little bit better. I don't know, in general, maybe I'm just going too high with some of these, like my mountains are just too sharp, I think. Let's just jump back into here real quickly and just do a quick, I feel like in general, shooting that stuff up to be so spiky is giving me some issues. Let's just strip that back a little bit. And then in here, let's just round this stuff out a little bit more. So something like that, I think maybe that's a little less dramatic. It's going to be easier to get away with some interesting stuff, I think. All right, so this one, just trying to get rid of some of these zigzag stuff. Oof. Okay, something around here is a little bit too much. Still hitting some areas. I think maybe just that roughness was like too wild for it. All right, I think I'm getting back to something that was reasonable. It's just real tricky with this one to have it sitting in properly. Those spikes are just so brutal. All right, so just go back down with these ones. Okay, just call that good for now. So yeah, we'll do one more polygon reduction and get back into the renderer, and then we should be actually wrapping things up. So I think having this stuff less sharp, I think it would just take more time to kind of figure out how to optimize this and do some better tricks and stuff with it, but I'm just running into too many problems trying to displace like outwards and add. You kind of need that detail. I mean, you could instance rocks or triplanar projection or something like that, but just for my speed constraints, I feel like you kind of need some of the stuff pre-built or pre-set up to be doing it all in one quick session like this. I think I can maybe rely on the interesting stuff that I was doing with the water, with the lake textures. Maybe push that a little bit more in the render stuff, and then should be good. This last reduce is just crushing. I think because I tried to go down to 15, it has to do a little bit more work, but I'm hoping that it'll pay off because I'll be able to render stuff pretty quick. No karma, yeah. The XPU stuff, I didn't want to mess with it too much. Just with it being in beta and a little bit can crash a little bit more frequently. I just didn't have enough time set aside for the render aspect of things today, and spent like an hour and a half lost in the Vex VOP world or whatever. But yeah, I think we look at this topology and we're in better shape. Should be a lot more optimized for rendering. We can grab this water texture stuff. And I think I was just clamping these values off a little bit too much. Maybe you could even pull the other values in, like distance or some of that stuff, but let's try. Going a little bit higher with the higher upper range. So look at that, we're flying now. This stuff is optimized a little bit more. I don't know if this stuff got poking through the water. Let's take a look at our transmission settings. Ooh. Where's that blue coming from? I think it's this transmission business, maybe? I don't know. I don't know where that blue came in. Alright, hitting some issues there with that stuff being too low of a resolution. Yeah, this one's here is somewhat interesting. I don't know, I still think that this camera 4 is nice. Let's see if we can do any of these. Should be faster now that it's, because we poly reduced it so heavily. Should be getting a little bit more detail. I have some issues there lifting it up too high. I don't know if this can be sorted out quickly. But let's see. Sometimes you have to give it a little kick. Just gets like endlessly hung. Let's see what we get here. So yeah, it's definitely an issue there with that reduction. Let's go back up a little bit. Maybe putting some of that translucency stuff back in, that might help soften up that gap or like bridge some of the area where it was looking a little too funky. We have some swamp with sediments or something getting stuck on it. So yeah, I think if we wanted to do a final render, might want to just do some last quick enhancements. Let's grab this camera 4, put on the depth of field. That one can always help assist you if you don't have enough detail. This camera I have might be too kind of lens is going on here. Maybe I need to hit that reboot. We should see it. I don't know, I think I'm just using a really weird lens for this part. Seems to be coming along a little bit better. But yeah, I think that was maybe another thing I should have set up earlier. If we go to like a 36 sensor size, and then maybe for like more of an aerial view, like that's gonna maybe help things look more like a photograph or landscape or something like that. So kind of flatten out the perspective a little bit more. And then I was just gonna grab the water stuff and toss the additional subdivision on there. That should help pick up a little bit more details and stuff in the noise, like those patterns that we're doing. Yeah, I don't know. Another thing you could play around with, like, if you, as I was saying earlier, if you have some stuff pre-built, like doing some instancing of simple geometry, I feel like that helps give you the detail you need. As well, instancing some VDBs or just some different layers of like fog. That can definitely help you if you're trying to make these terrain snapshots or like concepts or whatever, working quickly without spending too much time actually like optimizing things. If you just have some clouds to sprinkle in or to instance around, that can help. These distance nodes are still cooking. All right, here comes. We're getting somewhere. All right, we need to reset our depth of field. But yeah, it's feeling a little bit more realistic, photographic or whatever now. Maybe that light is a little bit too wild. Let's just play around with that, and that might be a good way to kind of wrap things up. This could be nice. So if you don't have enough detail in certain things, just turning the lights off can help quite a bit. But yeah, we could try some of this other business. Kind of gives you a little bit of extra. Yeah, I mean, the redshift post, it can help you get, I don't know, just some weird little tricks, enhancements or whatever. Do an actual bucket render so the GI stuff kicks in. But yeah, I don't know, I mean, having some elements that you could put in compositing would definitely be helpful. If I really wanted to spend more time, I might do another like render time subdivision iteration or whatever, but this is another reason I was a little bit still enjoying redshift, is that you can like sneak in at the last minute and kind of save something or get it a little bit photographic, just little glints and things like that. At render time. They do have that environment fog stuff, but some of that can look a little bit chintzy. I might actually just go ahead and let's get up. 4. 2. This is going to be, might as well save it just in case. Okay, so yeah, we'll let that churn, and that's going to be the last render of the day. Feel free, any last questions, bring them in. This was definitely really good inspiration here. I love this one. So yeah, that displacement gives us a little bit more detail, hopefully. We have our little planet. Maybe we'll boost the saturation. And maybe just give these color controls a quick little twirl. I feel like sometimes with ASIS, I like to try to notch in a little bit more like contrast. can get you a little bit, do too much of it and it's almost like you're not using ASUS, or it's like an sRGB image or something, but definitely can help a little bit. So yeah, we'll be wrapping it up shortly. Maybe we have 2 or 3 minutes while these buckets fill up. And yeah, if anyone was just joining recently, I did add this recent stream from a couple weeks ago to the archive. I'm going to be using this area of my website to archive things. So just trying to consolidate notes, summaries down from these longer sessions. So the scene files are there, or some quick little snippets that might be helpful. The VOD for full reference, and I started doing some chaptering, some annotations. So yeah, that should be helpful. Eventually I'll do a kind of index or glossary to kind of a library. So yeah, this, if you go to my main website, just johnkoons.com, there's a link here to the wiki. I haven't added the other pages yet as well, but like I'm starting to build out some things that getting things organized, getting good templates set up that I can just start to fill this with information more easily. So I need to record GIFs or animations for this kind of stuff. Yeah, and eventually there will be a index or glossary for this kind of stuff. But if you want to work along during the VOD, those scenes are archived here. It's just a little more organized than it was historically with, like, I'll still update the channels here when I add to it, but for, I don't know, like as you get further from the date, trying to find notes and stuff from older streams, this new format should lend itself better for like finding things. CG Wiki too. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Matt's CG Wiki is pretty good for like a quick reference guide. I don't know if mine is ever going to be up to those standards. Like, still to this day, I'll go to his for quick information, but I'm just trying to archive, consolidate, I don't know, make it easier to find stuff from the older streams. It's the Library of Alexandria or something. Some massive, it's always hard to consolidate Houdini information and dump it down, like still make it easily searchable. I don't know, I've been like, if someone made like an iTunes system for like Houdini files or something where you could sort them by tag and genre, and like I've had ideas of that before, but it's just super difficult to implement and like index and collate or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I think we can do one. Let's do one last little move here. Let's see what we get with this. Get in there. Sometimes this stuff isn't that responsive when you click on it. I'm trying to boost the river or something like that. It's not letting me. Off limits. Doesn't want me to do it. I don't know if sometimes you have to like control click or something, but the nuke one has its own little like caveats, and it's always hard to work with. Come on, get in there. Urgh. Doesn't want me to do it. Oh, we got one. All right, I don't know how helpful it's going to be. Doing these channel specific ones can always get a little bit messy. I don't know. That's about as far as I can take it, I think. Give me more. It's like you're using the Instagram filters and you're just cranking everything too much. All right, I think we can use a little bit more these shadows. Maybe it's a little bit nicer to have some of that detail in there. The bloom maybe got a little out of hand, some of that stuff. But I think that's where we'll call it for today. So I'll leave that there. Go back into the camera 4. If you guys want that final scene file, feel free to grab it. And yeah, I'll be signing off for today. We'll be back on Friday with another happy hour, for me at least, stream. European happy hour. Get the super box out. All right, take it easy. Thank you again for the raid, Planet Zone Max. All the new viewers, feel free to join the Discord, hang around, sift through some of these scene files. And yeah, everyone has a good rest of their week.